I have a 9-year-old son, and recently he's been asking, when can I get a mobile phone? Now that question can be really scary, and understandably so. But what are the next steps when that question inevitably comes? So here's 6 things to consider before you go ahead and buy a phone for your child. Consideration 1. Ask your child why they actually want a phone. Now, you might get a whole bunch of different answers. This could be from, all my friends have one. Oh, I just want one. Oh, I need one to be on apps and games. To some serious ones, like, oh, when I ride home from school, I want to be able to check in with you. That would be a good response. Your child's answer to that question of why they want a mobile phone really sets what happens next. If they answer and it's quite clear they're not ready for a phone, you can tell them, I don't think you're ready for a phone right now. We can have a discussion again in 6 months, or a year, or whenever you feel comfortable. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what happens if my kid comes up with some great reasons and they do seem ready to have a phone? This brings us to consideration number 2. Consideration number 2 is about responsibility. First of all, are they ready to own a piece of tech that can cost anywhere from in the hundreds up to the thousands of dollars? This is a great place to have a discussion about how their past behaviour is going to help them with their future responsibilities. Do they leave things around? Do they lose things? Or are they careful with the things that can't be replaced easily? Do they tidy up with themselves? Do they care for their pets and siblings? These are all questions that can lead to making a good decision in the now. But it also gives our kids something to work towards if they're not currently showing a level of care for the mobile phone to be a yes just yet. Part of responsibility is also an understanding of the value of things and how money works. This brings us to consideration number 3. Who's buying all the stuff? This would be the point where you give a rundown of all the different costs associated with owning a mobile phone. The initial outlay of the actual thing, the cost of the phone, being on a contract, or buying credit. All ongoing costs that need to come from somewhere, which your child might not have even thought about before. All of these costs have got to come from somewhere. Are they expecting you to pay for it all? Are they going to chip in? How's that going to work? An important discussion to have with your kids before you swipe away and buy that phone. When I do eventually succumb and buy a phone for my kid, I'm probably going to help out with the costs in some way, but not all of them. This might be different for you and your family. Your kid might have to pay for the whole thing. You might be able to chip in a little bit. You might even be able to pay for the whole thing, and that's fine. Everyone's situation is different. It's important to try and temper the expectations of our kids as well. It's a financial burden to buy a mobile phone. Buying the latest iPhone could cost thousands. Some people might not be able to afford that for their kids. So what questions and discussion points can we talk about with our kids in relation to the finances of a phone? What are the possible phones available for the budget we have in mind? Are you going to have a refurbished or second-hand phone, or a brand new one? Does your child need to get a part-time job, if they're old enough, to help with the costs or pay for the whole thing themselves? Is insurance important in case the phone breaks? And what are you going to do if you can't continue to pay for that phone in the future? Now, let's imagine this all goes swimmingly. You're ready to press purchase on the Apple Store website, right? Maybe not so fast. The next step might be to consider rules and regulations. Now, rules and regulations might not seem the most fun topic, but it might be the most important. I've seen students in my classes get mobile phones only for it to go badly, with parents scrambling to come up with rules, regulations, and agreements after the fact. If the expectations with the phone are set before the purchase, then everyone will know where they sit. And then when things do arise, which they will, there'll be a little bit less stress in the future. This is a great chance for us to include our kids in the decision-making process around the agreements and expectations of having a phone. Because nothing says I trust you from a parent to a kid than them feeling like they're part of the decision-making process. Here are some discussion topics we can have with our kids to establish some healthy boundaries around the mobile phone. Who owns the phone? You or them? And does that matter? What apps are allowed on the device? And who controls that? Is a credit card going to be attached to the phone for the purchase of apps and games? Are there going to be parental controls on the phone? One of the things I've seen blow up between parents and kids is the use of parental controls that the kid didn't even know about. Well, this creates a massive trust issue. And when is the appropriate usage time? And for how long? Are you going to stick to recommendations like 2 hours of screen time a day? Or are you going to let them choose how they use the phone themselves? Where's the phone going to be kept overnight? Are you happy for them to keep it in their room? Or have a break from it overnight? And where are they allowed to take it? Are they allowed to take it everywhere with them? Or just to specific places? I'm sure many more discussions will be had on this topic, but this is just somewhere to start. Sometimes though, all our best laid plans don't go the way we'd hoped. And that brings us to consideration number 5. What happens if it doesn't work? So what does happen if our kids start to use the phone the wrong way, or things get out of hand with social media? If we do get to this point, I think it's important that we remind ourselves that our young people are curious, they're risk takers, and they're bound to make mistakes. We often say that we want kids to do these things so they can learn great lessons in life. So as parents, we need to remind ourselves that first of all, they will stuff up. And second, others will stuff up, which might also affect our children. This can come in the form of surprising credit card bills, online bullying, addiction to gaming and apps, isolating behaviours, as well as other things. Anytime something of concern does happen, we should try to make our responses come from love, not anger, and education, not punishment. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there shouldn't be consequences if our kids display behaviours that are harmful or dangerous. Just like they should come as part of educating our kids and be appropriate to what happened. If we can react from this position, then we're more likely to get kids telling us the truth about what's happening. We can work together to come up with resolutions to problems and have more honest discussions moving forward. There is just a disclaimer for this section. If your child's ever acted illegally against in relation to their mobile phone, it must be reported immediately. This should be to the developers of the apps involved, to the authorities in your area, and to the people that support your child. Now, the last consideration, it's a big one, and it involves us. And that is, be role models. Our kids love us. They watch us, they mimic us, and our relationship with our mobile phones is no different. As an example, if they watch us eating dinner and we're scrolling through our phone, can we expect much different from them? Now, I'm not saying you can't do this, because for you and your family, this might not be a problem. But the point is that if we say something to our kids that we believe to be right and true, then shouldn't we live that as well? Just some food for thought. You may not agree with everything I've said, but hopefully some of the ideas and suggestions can help your family moving forward when your kids ask if they can have a mobile phone. Thank you for watching. Please put any questions in the comments section below. And remember, be proud of yourselves and proud of your kids. Also, if you want to watch a video about toxic sports parents, then click the thumbnail here.